what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. It's time for another hard rock and heavy metal update. Let's just jump in. First up, this is one that I picked up a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, when I found out they were being repressed. This is one of those bands that I just never knew who it was until maybe 2 years ago when I think it was Scott Waters first told me who it was in this band. So I'm a huge fan of Sanctuary. The Sanctuary debut is one of my all-time favorite albums. And after Sanctuary split up, I didn't know that Nevermore basically became the band that brought in a few of those members, or that came out of Sanctuary, I guess. Just the name Nevermore, for some reason, I always thought, you know, when I heard that band name, that it was like a symphonic metal band. Just that name sounds like a symphonic metal band. However, it's not. If you like Sanctuary, you're going to love Nevermore. And this is probably my favorite of their albums. This is The Godless Endeavor. And it's finally been... I don't remember if this was a repress or if this was the first time it was pressed to vinyl. If they're still available, though, I highly recommend grabbing them. It does sound great. I'm not going to pull it out, but this one is on a really nice silver vinyl. But if you're a fan of Sanctuary, you definitely need to check that out. I mean, Warrell Dane is... he just never got bad, you know. And actually, whereas with... there were some album or some songs throughout Nevermore where he went back to those really high vocals that you heard in the very first Sanctuary album that you didn't hear in subsequent albums. So next up, this was a really cool find, and I didn't realize I had never heard this until I spun it. I was just spinning this a couple days ago, and I sent a text to Scott Waters about how amazing this album is. This is Anvil's debut, Hard and Heavy, and this sounds nothing like the rest of their albums. This is actually a Japanese pressing that I found for, I think, $20. It's in mint condition. Unfortunately, it was missing the obi, but still. I'm kind of torn because I like what they turned into. But man, this was some great stuff. This is straight up 70s hard rock. Very much, and this is what I talked to Scott about. You hear a lot of Nugent in this album, in the guitar playing, and actually Bedroom Game and Bondage both straight up sound like they were written by the man himself. But this is just killer. You don't hear any of what they would become with their next album, and actually their next album is the first album of theirs that I got. So I was really surprised when I threw this in and heard it, and how amazing it is. Highly recommend picking that one up. Next up, I showed this one. I talked about this one in the last CD video I did. This has been the most spun record in my collection for the last few months. I'm really blown away by how good this one is, and that I had never heard of them. This was, the artwork is killer on here. This was done by Scott Waters. But this is Blood by Red Sea. This is just really killer, bluesy, heavy metal. This was originally in '94. As I mentioned in the last video, the best band to compare them to is Badlands. And I knew that one member was in the band. However, Scott let me know after my last video that actually 2 of the members of this band were actually in Badlands. Again, if you like that bluesy, heavy metal, hard rock of the late 80s, early 90s, you're going to love this album. It's just that good. I've been playing the heck out of it. And I think that one's on red vinyl. Next up, another one that was... this one was done by Rox, I think. The last one... Was Red Sea Rox as well? Yeah, these are both Rox records. And I believe they're both available still. Christovox is not a band I was new to. I've had this album actually for a number of years. I've got the original Intense pressing on CD. And this one is late 80s glam. Kind of the Skid Row... Warrant, maybe, kind of a mix of that sound. Unfortunately, my pressing is not the best. There's a lot of sibilance in the cymbals and stuff. That that you get in the highs. It's still a great album, though, and definitely worth picking up. This is one I may actually recommend on CD, though. But still, really good album. And like I said, I had heard the CD before. I still play the CD quite a bit. Still worth checking out. I just wasn't a fan of that particular pressing. Next up, taking it back. When was this? 86 maybe? Let me look. 86, yeah. This is Impaler. I can't remember if this was Impaler's debut. It may have been. I don't remember off the top of my head, though. Impaler is just raw, almost a punk edge that I really like. If we had brains, we'd be dangerous. It doesn't get much better than that title. This is one of the local record stores picked up a huge vinyl collection. I talked about this before. I got there like 5 days later because I was out of town when they got the collection in, and I kind of got the leftovers. And this is one of the leftovers, which kind of shocked me because this is just a great album. Next up, this is really cool. If you're a Doom guy, if you're into Trouble, if you're into Black Sabbath, Candlemass, highly recommend checking these guys out. I thought this was their debut album. It turns out this is like their 5th or 6th album, so I'll definitely be going to check out the others. But this is Iron Void. This was done by Shadow Kingdom, and I've been loving this. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to play this again after the video is over. But this is kind of goes along with the story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, which is funny because it just hit me that I am listening to the Gravedigger album in my car right now that is the story of King Arthur, and I can't think of the name of it, but regardless, just kind of a little connection in my head. Really cool. This one might have had a really cool color vinyl. I can't remember. Nah, this was just a blue vinyl. But again, if you're into the traditional doom metal, this is one that you need to get. This is a new release too. I believe this was 2018 or 19. Oh wow! So this must have been a repressing because it says 2017, but this is still listed in the new albums on the Shadow Kingdom website. So regardless, Iron Void. I will definitely be looking for the rest of their albums. Definitely in that area. Doom's a funny one. When it gets too slow, that the Funeral Doom, I'm not really a fan of it. However, you know that kind of Trouble, Candlemass, Saint Vitus Void area of Doom is really where really the sound I like. And then of course I've talked about sludge before. I love sludge too, which kind of has there's the Doom in that as well. Next up, one of the most hated albums in hard rock history, heavy metal history. Also one of the best-selling albums. This is Warrant Cherry Pie. This is a reissue. I ended up picking it up for really cheap on Amazon. It's red vinyl. I think I got it for $16, something like that. Everybody hates it for the main track, Cherry Pie, which I like the song. It's not I think it's one of the weaker songs on here. But man, I Saw Red, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Blind Faith, Song and Dance Man, Mr. Rainmaker. I mean, there's so many good tracks on here. And if you don't know the story behind it, Cherry Pie was not originally one of the tracks. The record label would not release it because there wasn't what they thought to be a hit song on here, which is kind of funny because Uncle Tom's Cabin was a huge hit, and I believe that's what the band wanted to call the album. However, so they went back in the studio, they threw together Cherry Pie, and because of that, this is probably 4 or 5 times platinum. So, kind of one of those things, a blessing and curse kind of thing, because it really made the band blow up. But that song also turned them into kind of a joke of the metal community at that time. Next up, this is a band I didn't get into until just maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Just really early heavy metal, hard rock, just a killer band. This is a really raw live pressing that I really dig. I actually bought this for somebody else's VCLT thinking that I wouldn't like it, and I really dig it, so I'm keeping it. But this is the Rods Live. This was 84, maybe. Let's see if it says. It doesn't even say on here. But this was released right around the time of their fourth album, and has some of the songs from their first few. Definitely worth checking out. It's a cheap album too. I mean, I think I paid $6 or $7 for it. I looked online. They're really cheap. Next up, I showed this before, but I pulled it out to give it another spin. Actually, I give it a few more spins. I absolutely love this album. I think that their last few albums have been just as good as their early albums, and especially as far as sound quality and production quality. The new albums are absolutely phenomenal. But this is Goddamn Evil by Stryper, and this is the one I got signed. Unfortunately, it's just been released that Oz Fox has another tumor, and he's not touring with them right now, so they can get treatment. But if you liked early Stryper and you haven't checked out these last few albums, you're really missing out, because Michael Sweet is just murdering it. His voice still sounds amazing. His writing is just as good as it ever was. This next one was really cool. This is one that I was looking for. This turned out to not be the one I was looking for, but I've mentioned before I'm working on collecting the 12-inch singles from Iron Maiden from the 80s. I believe the 12 inches were only in the UK. I don't believe they were pressed in the US, but I may be incorrect there. This one is actually a US pressing, and it's a promo-only copy. And I didn't even notice it when I bought it. I picked it up for maybe, 13 or 14 bucks. But this is Iron Maiden Aces High, my all-time favorite album cover right there. It does not get better than that. When I think of the record stores in the 80s, my memories of the record stores in the 80s, this image is always there. Almost every record store I went to had the big old flag-size poster of this, and the big old flag-size poster of the Trooper, the British soldier. And then, of course, there was always a poster somewhere of Kiss in makeup and Kiss out of makeup. So every memory I have of going to record stores and going, especially with my dad back in those days, has this image. Regardless, always been my favorite album cover. What makes this cool is, I don't know if you can see it down. You can't. It says promo copy not for sale. Apparently there's not a lot of these. I've only seen a few of them pop up, and they all go for like 50 or 60 bucks. Again, when I grabbed it, I just grabbed it because I was looking for the Aces High single. That it's not this. The only songs on here are Aces High on both the A and B side. Now, I will say this is the best sounding pressing of Aces High that I've ever heard. The sound quality is way better than the album. So I'm really happy to have this. Next up, it's a Colorado band. Give me a second. I want to say Colorado Springs. Yeah, there we go. Colorado Springs. 1989. This is a private press thrash band. Really good. It's that punky style of thrash that I really like. Kind of dug it. Not the best lyrics, but still, it's a really good thrash EP. This is the band Animosity, and the song is Get Off My Back. And, I just love these, running across these private presses. And I found it for cheap. I think you can get them online for cheap. I think I looked, and they go for under 20 bucks. And I think I paid $10 or $11 for it on Mosh Pit Records. Very cool, though. Next up, just pulled this one out to spin it again. I've shown this probably 3 or 4 videos. When I get in the mood for new wave of traditional metal, usually Night Demon comes out. Haunt, as of late, has been coming out, which I'll talk about in another video. And then High Spirits comes out, and lately this one's been coming out. And this is the self-titled only album from Satan's Hollow, now that they've split up. Just a killer sounding album, though. And I'm looking forward to what happens with Midnight Dice, which is the new band with the singer and guitarist from Satan's Hollow. That one was on red vinyl. Next up, Malaya Rage, however you want to say it, Dead to the World. So this label, Night of the Vinyl Dead, I'm not sure where they are in Europe. Let's see if it says on the back. They have, regardless, Night of the Vinyl Dead has slowly been releasing some of the best metal albums that never received vinyl releases, and they do them all in small batches, and they sell out super fast. I don't remember who it was. Somebody in the VC used to had every Night of the Vinyl Dead album, and he would show them. And I was so jealous because so many of those albums. The first one that comes to mind is the Grip Incorporated, which is one of my all-time favorite albums. Was only released on vinyl by Night of the Vinyl Dead, and that's one of my grails. But they've done a few of the Malia Rages too. And I don't remember where I bought this from. Maybe Shadow Kingdom or Hell's Headbangers got a couple copies. Kind of cool packaging though. So you got the album cover there. And it's this whole military theme, obviously, with the soldier on the front. And then you've got the camouflage. It's on white vinyl, which, whatever. I guess I don't know. I think like a khaki green or something would have been cooler. But then it comes with this dossier. And let's see what all is in here. So you've got the lyric sheet. You've got images of all the band members. And then you've got a set of dog tags. This one is Malia Rage, Dead to the World. What does it say? Dead to the World, Night 247. And this one says limited edition number 62 of 250. So something kind of cool, Hopefully it doesn't damage the record being in there over time. But just something I had never seen before. I thought that was kind of cool. And I didn't know that was in there when I ordered it. I ordered it because I'm a fan of Malia Rage. And then last but not least is a Grail for me. This was literally number one on my want list. This is one of my all-time favorite albums. I think this is one of the 10 best metal albums of all time. I've said that before when I talked about this a while back. It's also got one of my all-time favorite songs, The Misery Shows, Act 2. And if that didn't give it away, this will. It's the self-titled album by Trouble. This one is actually a gold stamp promo. I picked this up on one of the Facebook groups for really cheap. I think I paid $40 shipped, maybe. It's in excellent condition. The first day I had it, I played it through like 7 times. Again, one of my all-time favorite albums. If you haven't heard it, I think this is the best Trouble album. A lot of people would say that their debut, which was also technically self-titled Trouble before they changed the name. This is just a fantastic album. It does not get a whole lot better than this. And this is one that I couldn't recommend highly enough. So that's it, guys. I wanted to keep this one relatively short, for me anyway. Take care, and I'll have something up soon, guys. Take care.